I completed the North Face's allyship in the outdoors course, so you don't have to. The point they are trying to argue is pretty clear, and in this course there are examples of both good arguments and bad ones. And the bad ones include things that will probably make you laugh, so let's review them. And before we get into it, I am arguing neither against nor in favor of the North Face's goals or training courses regarding allyship, and this video is not against the company or against the people appearing in the course. This video is about highlighting good and bad arguments, fallacies and propaganda if present. The very first positive and later on negative I want to highlight is that they give definitions. A common fallacy and propaganda technique is to change the meaning of certain words during an argument, called the fallacy of equivocation. By giving a clear definition, it is easy to circumvent these fallacies and make your argument clear and easy to understand. However, some of the definitions they gave are self-contradicting. For example, is this group diverse? Does it have a great deal of variety of people from a range of different ethnic backgrounds? And what is an ethnically diverse individual? 10% Cherokee, 20% Caucasian, 15% African American? Because that's the only way referring to a single person as ethnically diverse makes sense. If you use it with the meaning of non-white, it just becomes a dog whistle. Many people will think it means a person with a diverse ancestry, when the true meaning you try to convey is non-white. You already have a word for that, non-white, and another word as people of color. Did you know that despite making up 14% of the population, people from an ethnically diverse background commit only 1% of national park visits? So why is it? Is it because of systematic racism or other systemic issues that could be fixed and this course explains these issues and provides solutions? No, I mean no to explaining and providing solution. This course does none of that. Well, they give some reasons for these statistics, which are pretty vague. So what do they mean by language, for example? Because unless you are the Lorax, there isn't much talking going on in the outdoors. Maybe making trail signs in multiple languages is what they mean, but as I said, it's unclear, and so are the other points. And later on they spend a lot of time on irrelevant things that could have been spent better explaining these points. Given the topic of this course, the focus should be on discrimination, if it is a system-level problem or caused by certain individuals, and possible solutions to these problems. So I don't really know where to put this, bringing this up and then immediately following up with inclusion and representation in sports, specifically sports that are catered to by the North Face, can give the feeling that this isn't really about racism or inequality, but more of an advertising campaign. And the reason I say that is there is no context given. As I understand, one of the main reasons for the outrage was that many people perceive the actions of the police as excessive violence and even attributed racial motivation to these actions. Clearly, the main issues that should be focused on in this case are police brutality and racism. Two things that are not mentioned here. Instead, they focus on inclusion and representation, which I understand are important to many people, but compared to what happened to George Floyd, especially in context of what happened to him, seems almost like it's trying to minimize the impact of police brutality and racism, and instead tries to shift the focus to inclusion and representation, as if outdoor sports were more inclusive and representative, something like this would not have happened. And with this in context, someone can come to the conclusion that this entire campaign is not to address the issues around racism, but to expand your customer base to people of color. As you can see in the corner, this is only my opinion, and I don't recognize any fallacies or propaganda techniques in this segment that I could use to support my opinion, but this is something I wanted to highlight. The first video presented reiterates the small amount of people of color in outdoor sports, but again gives no reason for this statistic. In the second module, they present some good points and possible solutions. The first one is with Molly. She refers to having a hair type that does not fit into helmets, and even though I don't see why this would be race-related, as illustrated by these pictures, regardless it is a good point regarding inclusivity and making sure that the equipment you make fits everyone. Not in this segment, but a similar and I think even better point is brought up by Amira regarding her clothing with religious significance not fitting under helmets. And this one can be interpreted as discriminatory against certain religious groups and is an improvement potential where the outdoor sports community, specifically equipment manufacturers, could make progress. The second video with David is about racially motivated harassment. It is unclear if it was committed by individuals or done on a systematic level and not necessarily outdoor sports related, but the improvement potential is pretty obvious. The third video with Mary, however, is misleading. What I mean by that is that in context of privilege, especially with the definition provided by the North Face, her claims about certain facilities being hard to access could be misinterpreted as being the result of racial discrimination. even though she cites other reasons, namely inaccessibility due to the distance and inadequate transportation infrastructure, and also something that made me laugh.
So you have transport issue, for example, that's one of the bias. So you have to pay for the train.
Yes, usually things cost money. So this video stands in stark contrast to the legitimate problems presented by Molly and David and later on Amira. And in a sense, privilege could be identified here. Obviously, people who live next door to the sport facility have a privilege compared to people living far away. People living closer have an easier time accessing the facility. However, with the definition that the North Face uses, focusing on privilege arising from race, religion, sexual orientation, and so on, this is misleading as now they use privilege with a different meaning. Then they sum up the stories we heard, but it seems they did not watch or did not understand these stories, because Molly's and Mary's video contains no example of privilege, especially white privilege, as they focus on it just after the stories. Would Molly's hair have fitted in the helmet if her skin was white? Or would Mary had to take fewer trains or would get a white privilege discount on the price of her ticket? And to be fair, an argument could be made referring to the enduring racism section of the text that white people had better economic opportunities and could be more likely to have a car, but there is no reference to that in Mary's video. The only example of racial discrimination is from David's video. And this continues with the following points, the first three of which have nothing to do with the attributes listed in their definition of privilege. In the fourth one, people could be disrespectful towards you for various reasons, some of them being racially or religiously motivated, some reasons being not, so this again is not exclusively a racial privilege. In the fifth one, we also saw examples of equipment not fitting for certain people, whether due to hairstyle or religion, so again, not necessarily a privilege in the sense they define the word. From these points, only the sixth example fits their definition of privilege. And I praise the North Face for providing a clear definition of terms they use, and my opinion about this is unchanged. It's definitely a helpful and positive thing they did. What is not, however, is giving a definition, then using the word with a different meaning, and committing the equivocation fallacy. Again, for example, the first point is definitely a privilege. If you have a car, for example, it's easier to access the decent facilities than without one. But this is an economic privilege, something not in their definition, and not a racial or religious or other identity privilege. Also, the short video segment, they use very specific wording saying, click on the person to unlock their video story. The focus is on unlock instead of watch. Using the word unlock makes it sound and feel like you are getting rewarded, and seeing the video is not a chore but a reward, maybe even something that you worked for and achieved. It's not really propaganda, and I don't think it's malicious or misleading. It is trying to make this course more engaging, but I find it interesting that how changing a single word conveys the same information but can evoke different feelings. So I wanted to highlight it because this method can easily be used for propaganda. The next section is talking about racism and giving some bad examples. In Zara's example, where a store clerk paid more attention to her friend than her, it is unclear if it was due to racism or not, but it is implied that it was a result of racism. Molly follows up with people touching her hair without permission, which is, again, not race-related. I mean, in high school, one of the girls had Skrillex hair, with one side of her head having long hair, the other one having a buzz cut, and she was the same race as everyone else in the class, but people still touched her hair, not because of racism, but because she had a unique hairstyle. And we had another girl who had very curly and big hair, almost like having a sheep on her head. Again, same race as everyone else, but we still touched her hair. Zuki, however, gives a very good example of a racist remark that is also a good example of a dog whistle, mentioning a time when he was seen outdoors and another hiker told his friend to watch your Garmin. With the context, the implication being that the two other people were concerned that he might steal it. Again, we don't know if in this example the reason for worrying about theft was specifically racism or just general distrust to strangers. But given that there are racist people out there, it is something that can definitely happen. And as I said, a good example of dog whistling. There is nothing racist in the remark, watch your Garmin, and no information about a possible theft. But given the right circumstances, awareness of Zuki's presence by both persons, racist worldview, and drawing attention to Zuki by nonverbal signals, this sentence can easily carry additional information, something along the lines of, hey, there is a black guy over there, watch your Garmin so he doesn't steal it. There is another example by Molly being mistaken for another person of color, which again could be for other reasons. There is also mention by Kate that less than 1% of rock climbing instructors are people of color, but gives no possible reason for it that could be addressed. Not even directly saying that it is because of racism, just implying it and relying on the audience jumping to conclusions. Then David makes a similar point to Mary, mentioning that people of color in Europe are mostly first, second, and third generation immigrants, and as a result are financially disadvantaged. Which again, how is it related to racism? It doesn't mention any racist policies that may hinder the social mobility of people of color, it just says that they are mostly economically disadvantaged, which is in on itself not race related. I mean, I am so white that I get sunburns during a full moon and I cannot afford skiing. And he says that ticketing could be cheaper for everyone. Which is this a parody? I mean, yeah, everything could be cheaper. We should definitely tell a politician about this idea. But doing the question segments is something that I really don't like. It's not a fallacy or propaganda, it's just a general attitude towards arguing. With the question, you can see on the screen, option D is a wrong answer. And it even gives us a reason why it's wrong. And if you read the answer and the reason carefully, you notice a fallacy, using argument and conflict as synonyms. They are not. An argument is not a competition where you try to convince everyone that your opinion is correct, whether it is really correct or not, using propaganda techniques and fallacies, or just simply lying. It is a conversation where you try to have a common understanding, and winning an argument is when the interlocutors come to an agreement, if applicable, regardless if it is your opinion or theirs that you agree on. And I am using the word interlocutor instead of opponent for a very specific reason. Just like with the videos, a single word can convey additional meaning. Opponent makes it sound like you are trying to defeat the other person, discrediting his opinion with every means necessary, even fallacies or lies. Interlocutor to me suggests a more honest conversation aimed at finding a common ground or the truth. This is why I highly prefer interlocutor instead of opponent when it comes to arguments. But apart from that, the correct answer is to remove the comments, respond with calm authority, and not to respond by letting them know why they are wrong. Yes, this course is aimed at fixing a problem, but you are discouraged from actually fixing the problem when an opportunity presents itself. How do you expect someone to change their mind if you don't explain to them why you think they are wrong? And imagine it from the perspective of the other person making an offensive comment. Your comment is deleted, your opinion is censored. You are given no reason why you are wrong. It is simply stated as a fact that you are in a self-righteous manner. Don't you think this will further radicalize someone? And it's true that this question is for someone managing a corporate social media account where the aim is to just get over such comments with as little controversy as possible, but this is not the right way to handle different opinions. And answer E mentions hate speech and racism. The question, however, mentions no such hypothetical comment, only the phrase too woke, and it's not necessarily from a racist comment. Someone who is anti-racist would use it with the meaning of performative activism, implying that the original post is not really intended to fight against racism, rather just draw attention to the brand and gain positive exposure. The next segment, Module 4, is about being an active ally and is fairly uneventful. The only thing here that I don't understand is a segment from a video about being black outdoors. I don't understand how being black compared to white or Asian or Native American or any other race is different, and it's not explained. What I also don't understand, since as you can probably hear it, English is not my native language, is why an adjective has a capital letter, especially when at other places a similar adjective has no capital letter. And I could start a conspiracy and say that the North Face is racist or anti-white because it doesn't capitalize the W in white, but I would be wrong to do so because, as I said, I don't understand why they do it. And it is not explained, is black here used as a reference to an ethnic group, or does it mean something else I'm unaware of? Maybe instead of complaining about train ticket prices, they could have focused on this. The rest of the course is about standing up for other people when you see injustice, and after that you get your discount coupon so you can go on and consume. So at the end of this, is this course woke? Yes, and let me explain why. Designed for a deeper understanding of challenges faced by people of color when accessing the outdoors, we haven't really seen any of it. The only example was from Amira, that she had trouble fitting a helmet. Even though it fits more into religious discrimination than racial one, it still fits the theme. The other two good examples are not outdoor related but general racism, from David and Zuki. So we have three examples of discrimination, one of them is addressed with a possible solution, more accommodating helmets. The other two are not. What is even more absurd is that the course actively discourages you from addressing the latter two examples of racism and even harassment. It shows in some examples about economic barriers in outdoor sports that it tries to imply are race-based. It talks about white privilege and then gives examples of privilege that are not due to race and do not fit their definition of privilege. It's almost like they don't even know what the course they made is about or are just utterly confused, and they are confused about the meaning of diversity. Almost like very minimal research went into the problem of discrimination in the outdoors, and even less into possible solutions. It shows a statistic about the low participation rates of people of color in outdoor sports, but doesn't explain or investigate why that might be. The focus is on outdoor sports, but not in a broad general sense, but specifically outdoor sports that the North Face caters to, which in itself could be understandable. After all, the company focuses on areas it is involved in. But I could also say that this is just an advertisement campaign aimed towards people of color, an untapped consumer market. The 20% discount could be also seen as an encouragement to take this course, or again, as marketing. I have no definitive evidence what reason they had for this course, but considering the weak presentation of the problem, even weaker proposals for a solution, and in cases discouraging people from trying to solve the problem, discrimination and privilege cases not related to race or religion or so on, their inconsistency with their own definitions, what I have said about the mentioning of George Floyd's death, the way they just throw in popular phrases just so they can have these phrases in the course and not really do anything with it. Considering all of this, I would say that this course is woke. And again, I can't read the mind of the person who made this course, but considering what I just listed, this is the opinion I came to. And again, this is an opinion. The course does not really solve any issue, but rather paints a picture that the North Face is taking action against it, and as a result tries to present the company in a positive way. As the end of the video, I would like to reiterate again that this video is not about taking a side in racism versus anti-racism. This is not against the North Face, and especially not against the people from the videos. This video was about highlighting inconsistencies in arguments, fallacies, and some propaganda techniques used in this course. I hope you enjoyed the video and learned something, and thank you for watching.